How did you first hear about Krampus, or what is Krampus to you?
Well, Krampus is kind of Santa Claus's duo. You know, Santa Claus takes care of the good kids, and Krampus takes care of the bad ones. I didn't like the way Krampus was doing his job, so I took care of him. Took care of him. So I took over for him.
So how do you do it differently?
Well, Krampus likes to put them in a cage.
Yeah.
Torture them a little bit.
Yeah.
I just take them out of their misery. I get it done.
Oh, no.
Hidden within the shadows, throughout tales that span generations, monsters exist in many forms. Explore the folklore, embrace its most important lasting features, and delve into information of the unexpected. These are Monster Myths. What you know about monsters could save a life, possibly even your own. I need you to help me inform the masses. I'm Kephen Sting, and tonight's Monster Myths features Krampus. Now, you can think of this as a special Christmas episode of Monster Myths, where we will not only study the lore of the Krampus, but we will dabble in the history of several similar monsters from other parts of the world. Which reminds me of a question I received from an inconstant viewer, a young man named Sam Olmsted. Now, he asked, is it true that Krampus is so popular that there are parades of them in some towns? Well, that's a very interesting question, Sam. Now, in some of the Eastern European countries, as I'll discuss shortly, they do have parades of Krampus. Or is it Krampi? Anyway, of course, it happens in parts of the world where the folklore is the strongest in those beliefs. Now, I personally think it would be just smashing if they had them here in the States. I know I'd go. So now you know there are parades for these Krampus creatures. And there's much more to share. In the short time I've been in your dimension, I've seen that you treat Christmas time as one of the high points of the year. Everybody seems to love it. And what I'm finding is that those of you in North America and other English-speaking countries have a lot in common with many European countries, this holiday being one. In particular, the folklore of the Christmas season. Now, there's hardly a human alive that hasn't heard of Santa Claus, often referred to as Saint Nicholas. Now, he's the character that rewards good children with presents. And in the condensed modern version of his tale, if you're one of the bad children, you're supposed to receive a lump of coal or rocks and lemons Christmas morning, which is strange to me. Like in my dimension, you'd be grateful if you receive lemons from anybody. They're considered to be a rare delicacy. But it seems very few actually receive these items if they're misbehaving. But it is sewn into the Christmas folklore regardless. However, if we draw our attention towards the Central European countries, we find that the bad kids just may have to deal with something much worse than a lump of coal or a lemon. As Saint Nicholas takes care of those children who behave and work hard all year, there is a being that takes care of those children who do not. Its name is Krampus, and it is the holiday's manifestation of all that Santa Claus is not.
Well, in the legends, Krampus would kidnap children and put them in a sack and then take them to his quote-unquote lair and beat them with rocks, sticks, and switches and all sorts of things. And in some legends, he would take the children back home before the morning. In others, they'd stay all night and wouldn't come back. So, I don't know.
I grew up in Germany, so that was like a normal thing for us. So December 6th is St. Nicholas Day, and December 6th, if you're good, so you put your boots out or your shoes out, you clean them. It's very important. You have to clean your boots. You sit them out the door, and the next morning when you wake up on December 6th, either St. Nicholas came with candy and filled your boots with candy and chocolates and good things, or if you were naughty, then Krampus came and put branches in there and coals. And if you were really naughty, your parents would probably take those branches and whoop your butt.
You see, Krampus is a horned, scary, anthropomorphic creature. That means that it is a human form mixed with an animal form. Most often, the Krampus is described as half goat, half demon. Now, it's said that during the Christmas season, it punishes children who have misbehaved, obviously in contrast to Saint Nick. In fact, in areas of your world where this is practiced, Krampus is seen as like a companion to Saint Nicholas. And that would be quite frightening indeed, for its appearance is that of a large demon. Now, first of all, Krampus is depicted as being tall and hairy with black or brown fur. It has cloven hooves and curled horns like a goat, and between its large fangs unfurls a long, pointed tongue. Now, this Christmas demon carries lengthy chains, thrashing them about for a frightening effect. And sometimes they might be accompanied by bells. Apparently, this monster is not afraid of being heard. According to early stories, it carries with it a bundle of birch branches in order to swat children, although modern depictions have it carrying a whip instead. Now, on its back is strapped a sack or a basket. Now, this is to carry off disobedient children. To where? Well, legend has it that it allows the monster to take the evil kids back to its lair for drowning, eating, or even transporting to hell. So where about in the world can we find such a monster? Well, apparently, regions of Austria, Croatia, and the Czech Republic, and others in the Middle to Eastern European areas. All of them share this folklore and celebrate it. Now, from what I understand, the Feast of St. Nicholas is celebrated in many parts of Europe on December the 6th, but it's the evening before, December 5th, that is known as Krampus Night. And it's not uncommon for territories to have parades and parties during this event. Now, traditionally, people dress up as Krampus and participate by dancing through the streets. Now, these costume characters are a crucial part of all Krampus celebrations. Now, the folklore states that the creatures will visit homes and businesses in search of bad children. It seems that it is customary to offer the Krampus schnapps or fruit brandy to help soothe it and steer it clear of your home. It's a little hard to picture a demon downing peach schnapps, isn't it? But perhaps it pairs well with children.
In this day and age, I feel like everything is so attainable to the younger generation that they've ultimately kind of, gotten a little spoiled. So having a concept where there are consequences, good and bad, or good versus evil, which are always great, thematics. But again, something that has consequences behind it. I like that idea.
I always laugh because I think the little kids that are growing up with this kind of mentality and these kind of movies and this kind of belief system, they're well behaved. I feel like personally, seeing little kids in grocery stores, they can be all over the place. But the little kids that are at these horror conventions or even Comic-Con or whatever that grow up with these beliefs of there's a good side and there's a bad side and you have to make a choice and learning all of these there's karma, there's consequences to your actions.
Right.
I think that's a good thing for kids.
I feel like children getting coal in their stockings instead of Christmas presents isn't as bad of a punishment as Krampus's punishments would be. So I feel like it could be a little bit more implied, but
I do think it would be a good addition to our culture at this point. I mean, look at how kids act today, right? I mean, we could use a little Krampus. Plus, it's fun. You know, some other cultures, they do big parades and they have a big party and they do all these other things and they go to people's house and they bring back that whole family and community. And if they would help do that, I'm all for it.
And I think that would probably do a little more harm for kids than most. Probably terrorize them to an extent. But like Santa, and I think that as we get older, you know, we start to understand things that it's a story and, you know, it's as scary as you want it to be.
Now, could there be more out there? More stories and tales that have consequences for disobedient children? Oh, you bet there are. If we focus our attention on the upper German and Austrian regions of the Alps, there is a winter myth of a spirit that was once known as a goddess of the land. She goes by the name Perchta and is most often depicted as having two forms. The first form is that of a beautiful woman with skin and hair as white as snow. Yet her other form is old and haggard with a long nose and a twisted, wrinkly face. Another interesting feature is that Perchta has one large foot, sometimes referred to as a goose foot or a swan foot. Now, the large foot was thought to symbolize a higher being. Now, this depiction makes a lot of sense, for supposedly the good children of Eastern Europe love Frau Perchta. At the same time, the naughty kids are terrified of her, and for good reason. As the story goes, Perchta roams the countryside at midwinter and will enter homes on the 12th night. She knows whether or not the children of the household have behaved and worked hard all year. Now, if they had behaved all year, they might just get a silver coin in their shoe the next day. And if they had not behaved, well, things get a little messy. She would slit their bellies open, remove their stomach and guts, and then stuff the wound with straw and pebbles. It's pretty messed up, right? I mean, Merry Christmas, Danny! Danny? Oh, Danny. Now, equally fascinating, and perhaps a bit more complex, is the Christmas time folklore of Iceland. Now, what you'll find is that many of their stories fall under three main categories. There's the stories that are about Gryla, the giantess. Then there's the Yule cats. And thirdly, the Yule lads. Now, when you hear stories about Gryla, the giantess, she is accompanied by her lazy giant husband, Lapaldi. But of course, like most of her kind, she has an appetite for the cooked flesh of disobedient children. Now, Gryla likes to cook bad kids in a cauldron while her husband is often asleep. But they share in the delicacies together. Now, the Yule cat is an enormous, vicious feline, perhaps the size of a full-grown tiger. And it lurks around the countryside at Christmas time, and get this, it eats people who have not received any new clothes to wear before Christmas Eve. Bet you won't catch Bjork running around in that same old swan dress, huh? And then we've got the Yule lads, whose appearance is tied to specific days of the holiday season. Now, their backstory is that they're the sons of Gryla and Lapaldi, so we're dealing with more giant troll-like people. Only there are 13 of these lads, and they all are mischievous pranksters, each with a specialized prankster skill. Now, these skills range from stealing things or just actions that harass the population. Now, conveniently, their names describe their individual impish actions during the holidays. For example, there's a spoon licker, a pot scraper, door slammer, and sausage swiper, just to name a few. Also, they have an interesting relationship to the calendar, and it goes something like this. You see, the Yule lads arrive during the last 13 nights before Christmas, beginning December 12th. Then they leave town beginning on Christmas Day, one of them per day, each in the order they arrived, until they have all departed for the season. Now, come to think of it, little peppermint schnapps, my coffee might warm the old cockles of my heart. Yes, Christmas can be a joyous time, but clearly we're finding out that there can be monstrous circumstances for bad little girls and boys. And it seems there's been such consequences since there's been cause to celebrate holidays way back in the distant past. Now, I don't know about you, but when I see mistletoe or hear jingle bells or drink hot cocoa in December, there will be a place in my mind reserved for giants, witches, and demons. I'll be looking over my shoulder, ready for the slightest shake-up. Perhaps it won't be St. Nick who will be making its way down my chimney.
I think Krampus just really teaches us that there's consequences to our actions. Think before you act.
Respect of other people and respect of other cultures. That would be a good start.
That there is always evil in the world and we can't escape it.
It's kind of more violent than anything.
Appreciation for your parents and things that just don't come cheap, I guess. And how to not be shitty towards your parents.
Not to take anything for granted. Like appreciate what we have, even though it's not big.
To appreciate the true meanings of Christmas, family, and love for others.
Maybe the unexpected.
Oh.
So, a little bit of a surprise element aside from, behaving well.
Feed it off of hate, and it's making you realize, like, hey, this is once a year. Just enjoy the time that you have with it. If not, then it's going to get pretty ugly for you.
There's no hope. You're just going to get killed. Whether you're good or bad, you're just done.
You're done.
You're done. You're done. You're done.
Now, faithful viewers, if you found value out of this episode, please give it a like. And I'm always looking forward to your comments, emails, and suggestions. You might want to stop by my Facebook fan page to check in with me there. And of course, inform the masses. You are encouraged to share this episode with friends, family, ghosts, anyone you think might enjoy this stuff. After all, we are in this together. Now, good children can dream of gumdrops and cookies this Christmas season, perhaps without fear of what they'll find when they wake up on Christmas morning. Yet those bad children out there better heed the folk tales and watch their step, for they might not wake up to such pleasant circumstances. Mark well, children. Mark these warnings well. Stay aware out there, for you never know what might be lurking outside your door. I'm Kephen Sting, and these are Monster Myths.